Hi everyone. I'd like first to thank Philips for the invitation. I'm glad to join you in this exciting conference to share some of my research work on AI applied to the medical domain. In this talk, I will focus on natural language processing methods for medical question answering. Before starting, I have a quick disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed do not state or reflect those of the US government. In addition to the technical acceleration that has been brought by deep neural networks in the last decade, AI is increasingly requiring multidisciplinary and multitask approaches to achieve new increments in performance. Question answering is one of the oldest AI research topics. It includes several NLP subtasks, such as question understanding and named entity recognition. Medical question answering in particular is more and more important for consumers because of the spread of misinformation online and also for professionals to deal with the fast pace of new biomedical research insights and information. I started working on medical question answering in my PhD thesis, where I built a first question answering system combining semantic web technologies and NLP methods such as medical entity recognition and relation extraction, to retrieve and extract short and relevant answers to medical questions. When I joined the National Library of Medicine (NLM) and the National Institutes of Health (NIH) in 2015, I tried a different approach to question answering based on recognizing question entailment. The idea was to use reliable information from the National Institute of Health to create question and answer pairs and reuse them in answering new questions and queries that match with a similar existing question with an associated answer. However, the notion of similarity was not precise enough for question pairs. Thus, I introduced and defined the task of recognizing question entailment by considering that a question A entails a question B only if every answer to B is also an exact or a partial answer to A. This approach posed two hypotheses to explore. Can an entailment-based question answering approach be a main or complementary question answering approach? And what is the impact of restricting answer retrieval to a limited collection from trusted sources? To build a question answering system based on RQE, we created the MedQual dataset from 12 NIH websites, such as Medline Plus, GUARD, and Cancer.gov. MedQuad includes 47,000 question and answer pairs used to retrieve the entailed questions. The dataset covers 16 question types about diseases, such as treatment, susceptibility, and 20 question types about drugs, such as interactions and usage. MedQuad and all the created datasets are publicly available on my GitHub page. In a first entailment-based question answering approach, I combined two information retrieval models to find questions that are similar to the user's question from the MedQuad dataset, then applied a machine learning model to classify the candidate questions as entailed or not by the user's question. The RQE-based question answering system is one of the main modules of Chica. Chica is the first consumer health question answering system available at chica.nlm.nih.gov. We evaluated the entailment-based question answering system using the medical test set of the TREC Live QA Med 2017, which is an international challenge that we organized to offer the first medical question answering gold standard and a common framework to evaluate medical systems on answering questions about diseases, treatments, medications, and exams. Our RQE-based question answering system obtained a score of 0.82, which is substantially better than the best score of 0.63 achieved at the challenge. The important observation here is that most of the participating systems relied on very large answer sources from the web, while our system relied only on the MedQuad dataset. This shows that entailment-based question answering is a viable strategy and that restricting the answer sources that does not only help with the reliability but can also improve the question answering performance. For the archery classification task, I experimented with different machine learning models. In my early experiments in 2016, logistic regression outperformed neural networks when trained with traditional word embeddings, such as GLOVE and Word2Vec. But using more recent language models such as BioBERT and SciBERT outperformed logistic regression in the context of the Medica 2019 shared task. The first open domain challenge on recognizing textual entailment, or RTE, was introduced in 2005 and was followed by a wide range of approaches and the creation of large datasets such as the SNLI and multi-NLI corpora on natural language inference NLI. But few efforts have studied the RTE and NLI tasks in the medical domain. Before the Medica shared task, the references highlighted in red were the only published papers on entailment and inference in the medical domain, compared to thousands of papers in open domain. At the same time, the use of entailment and inference in question answering in general is not yet well studied. And to our knowledge, there were two main papers that investigated the use of entailment for question answering. With these limited efforts on entailment and inference in the medical domain, we organized the Medica shared task to offer new gold standard datasets and a common evaluation platform. Medica included three tasks: a first natural language inference task with three types of relations between sentences: entailment, contraindication, and neutral. The second task is recognizing question entailment, and the third one is question answering, which consisted of filtering and re-ranking the answers retrieved automatically by Chica. We also encouraged the use of entailment and inference model in the question answering task, which was one of our goals. The competition attracted 72 participating teams from both the industry and academia. If you are interested to read about their approaches, the best systems are described in working note papers published in the proceedings of the ACL BioNLP 2019 workshop. We also released a post-challenge round. The submission is currently open. We hope that further research works and insights will be developed in the future from the Medica task and datasets. Participating teams achieved promising results with multitask language models and transfer learning. The best official results were 74% accuracy for the archery task, 78% accuracy for correct and correct answer classification, and 0.34 in Spearman correlation for the answer re-ranking task. With these numeric insights on the level of challenge posed by medical question answering, it's also relevant to investigate what are those challenges from a qualitative perspective. To answer that question, we investigated in particular answering questions about medication, which have specific characteristics that need to be analyzed and evaluated, but no dedicated studies were available. To better understand the challenges and needs in terms of methods and resources, we analyzed questions submitted to Medline Plus to create a gold standard corpus. We performed medical entity recognition and manually selected the questions asking about medications, then annotated them with the question focus and the question types, such as interaction, usage, and ingredients. Then we manually search for reference answers, We also performed deep learning experiments for focus recognition, question type identification, and question answering. The created dataset contains 674 question and answer pairs, covering 25 question types, such as information and usage. In our manual answer search, 43% of the questions were answered from Daily Med and 19% from Medline Plus. Other websites were used to answer 38% of the questions, such as cdc.gov, mayoclinic.org, PubMed abstracts, and articles. When we couldn't find the answer in our list of preferred websites, external resources were used, such as eHealthly, which was helpful to answer questions about interactions. For focus recognition, the BiLSTM CRF model achieved an F1 score of 74%, and the convolutional neural network provided an accuracy of 75.5% for the identification of question type when using 80% of the data for training, 10% for development, and 10% for testing. For answer retrieval, Chica retrieved correct answers in 35% of the cases, which hints that classical question answering systems may not be the best fit for questions about medications. The creation of the corpus highlighted several challenges in questions about medications, including the use of too many words or general terms to express a medical term, or the case of requesting medical information that is not written online. Also, some questions are under-specified or lack essential information, such as asking about the right dose of a medication that requires additional information about the patient and the condition to be answered correctly. Another set of challenges is related to answer retrieval, including the case of conditional answers that depend on additional information, such as the manufacturer to know the list of ingredients. We also encountered often the case of distributed answers that can only be formed by combining different text snippets from different answer sources, and also answers that cannot be found without expert knowledge and inference. Some of the insights from our study are that simplification and also translation approaches are needed to make the answers readable for non-expert users. We also need more data and resources to cover some information needs, such as drug interactions and usage, that sometimes are not easy to find online even manually. Conditional answers might require alternative solutions, such as inference-based methods or interacting with the user in a dialogue-based approach. As highlighted by our study on questions about medications, one of the challenges is related to the length of consumer health questions. To address this problem, we studied summarization approaches to simplify consumer health questions. First, to assess the potential of question summarization for question answering, we conducted a preliminary question answering experiment using both the original live QA medical questions and manually created summaries. We submitted both forms to the Chica question answering system, and we evaluated the relevance of the retrieved answers using the Medical Live QA 2017 test set. Using the summaries led to an increase of the average relevance score from 0.7 to 1.1 compared to the best competition score of 0.63. To reduce the input noise from the questions, we defined question summarization as generating a condensed question expressing the minimum information required to find correct answers to the original question. As most of the research efforts in summarization were focused on news articles, we created manually a first dataset of 1,000 consumer health questions and associated summaries. Then I tried different data augmentation methods, such as using questions asked by medical doctors and questions semantically and automatically selected from the Quora question dataset. In these experiments, the pointer generator network proposed by CAO achieved the best performance of 44.16% Rougemont score using the third training dataset, which includes the manually created data, clinical questions, and the questions semantically selected from the Quora dataset. These results show the relevance of data selection and augmentation for question summarization. We usually perform a manual evaluation of the results in addition to the automatic evaluation. In this experiment, we performed a manual evaluation on 10% of the generated summaries. The manual evaluation results were slightly different than the results obtained using Rougemont, which highlights an important issue to address in future work, which is the relevance of existing evaluation metrics for summarization and text generation in general. The example here is a real consumer health question received by the National Library of Medicine and the summary that was generated by the deep learning model trained on the third dataset. The model summarized this 7 lines question by generating "Can Ocella cause DVT?", which is a correct summary. These results are promising considering the low frequency nature of most medical entities, and these results are also comparable in Rougemont score to the state-of-the-art results in open domain text summarization, despite the fact that our system was trained only on a set of 8,000 training pairs, which represent 2% of the size of the CNN Daily Mail dataset that's often used in open domain text summarization. A related exciting project that I'm working on is visual question answering and visual question generation from radiology images. Visual question answering is at the intersection of NLP and computer vision. The task consists of answering a natural language question based on the visual content of an image. This task has become popular since 2015 with the creation of the open domain VQA challenge and datasets of thousands of images and associated question and answers. For the medical domain, systems able to understand clinical images and to answer related questions can be used to support clinical education, clinical decision-making, and patient education. However, several challenges need to be addressed, such as designing goal-oriented VQA systems and datasets, categorizing the clinical questions, and selecting clinically relevant images. The second task of visual question generation can be used to generate large-scale VQA datasets and build new systems such as dialogue systems where the generated question could be used by patients to start a conversation with their doctors. We're currently working on the creation of new and efficient visual question generation models from radiology images. These systems and codes will be available soon. Very few efforts have focused on visual question answering in the medical domain. There were 2 datasets, the VQA-RAD dataset of questions asked by medical students about radiology images, and the VQA-MED 2018 dataset, including images extracted from PMC articles. For the VQA-MED 2019 competition that we organized at ImageClay 2019, I created training, validation, and test sets automatically using radiology images and associated annotations from the MedPix project at the NLM, and designed the new data by generating questions asking about one element and targeting 4 categories of questions modality, plane, organ system, and abnormality. These are the most frequent categories in the VQA-RAD dataset. To study the behavior and performance of different approaches, I created the questions and answers with different degrees of difficulty. The first three categories can be tackled as classification tasks, and the fourth category, which is abnormality, presents a text generation problem. This design is more relevant to clinical decision support than the common approach in open domain VQA datasets where the answer consists of one word or number. The test set was double validated by a radiologist and a medical doctor. We also annotated optional parts in some answers and added more than one correct answer when needed to be able to fairly judge the answers retrieved by the participating systems. 17 teams participated in the VQA Med 2019 competition. The best blue score was 0.64, which is substantially better than 2018's best performance of 0.16. The good performance achieved in VQA Med 2019 is partially related to the newly designed dataset, but also to the different approaches that have been applied, such as transfer learning, multitask learning, and hybrid methods combining both classification and answer generation methods. The accuracy scores by category show the effectiveness of participating systems in answering the modality, plane, and organ questions, but not questions about abnormality. This year, we focus on the more challenging questions about abnormality. Also, VQA Med 2020 includes a new task on visual question generation. Both tasks require a challenging bridge between NLP and computer vision, in addition to the specificities of the medical domain. We released the datasets of both tasks. The deadline to submit runs has been extended to June 5th. To conclude this talk, I think it's important to mention three aspects. First, we cannot advance research without good gold standard corpora and efficient evaluation metrics. Also, collaborations between medical experts, AI, NLP, and computer vision scientists are very important. And finally, as we make more advance in AI tasks and develop efficient question answering and dialogue systems, we need to be more considerate of ethical issues related to data privacy and commercial applications. I believe that deep learning and the new technologies can be highly beneficial to healthcare. Several areas still need more investigation, such as the access to trustworthy health information, applications to support the diagnosis and clinical decision, and also exploring new cures and treatments. Thank you all for your attention. I will be happy to answer your questions during the Q&A session and by email as well.